If you haven't watched the other videos for this series, go watch them now.
This is the last of 6 videos answering the question, why do my partner and I always argue about money?
Yeah, so in the previous 5 videos, we've talked about communication about money. We've talked about money and your unconscious, learning to relate and its impact on money, personality and money, and then number 5 was our definitions of money. We just went through a list of things that you're not thinking about while you're having arguments, while you're having stress over financial discussions. And you might have heard that list and said to yourself, there's no way that I can keep track of all those ideas in the middle of a discussion and make sure I'm doing this right. That would make my brain explode. What we're really saying is that all of these are new skills that each of us needs to spend some time developing. And just like some really basic skills like walking or eating or getting dressed that we learn as toddlers, those skills took time to develop, and now we don't think about them and we're good at them and it all works. So we want to introduce the idea that it's not about knowing this stuff, it's about practicing this stuff.
If you want to make your relationship better and prevent money arguments or stop arguments when you're in the middle of them, and if you want to manage the impact of money arguments on your relationship, it's incredibly important to commit to being curious. You have to know how your mind works and how your partner's mind works. Let's go through some questions that you could ask yourself and your partner to help with that curiosity. So, number 1, why am I thinking this? Don't answer that with the low-hanging fruit only, right? There's probably more than one reason why you're thinking something at a given time. So dig deep. Number 2, what feelings am I having? I cannot tell you how many times I'll ask someone, this is the stereotypic therapist question, right?
How do you feel about that?
Right. And I probably ask it 100 times a day. So it's a thing. And you would maybe be shocked to know that lots of people don't know what they feel. I ask them what they feel and they say what they're thinking. So happy, sad, angry, afraid, frustrated, those are feelings. Ask, what are you feeling? And answer with a feeling word. If you don't know, then have someone help you.
Yeah.
Number 3, are your thoughts or feelings familiar to you? That's all I want to know. Are they familiar?
Have you felt this way before?
Yes.
Do you feel this way a lot?
Yes. And 4, where might those familiar feelings come from? Where did they originate? Number 5, when else have you had them? So if you had it once, you probably had it another time, right? Be thinking about the first time you had that you can remember.
Right.
Okay. Number 6, what do my thoughts and feelings mean? This has an importance it has some value. You're not having this thought or feeling randomly. It's there for some reason. What is the meaning of it? Number 7, what are you trying to say? What's the communication you're trying to say to your partner? And number 8, why are you not saying that?
Yeah, that's amazing how we have a need that we choose not to express because it's hard to express.
Yeah.
Or it's scary to express.
Sometimes it's just hard to put language to what we're going through.
Yeah.
And so that just happens to humans, right? Language is not a perfect thing and sometimes doesn't always describe what's going on inside us. So struggle to find the language that you need in order to say what's on your mind.
And the fact that it's uncomfortable to do these things doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing them.
Yes, that's true. In fact, in this instance, part of the point of being curious is trying to overcome the discomfort that you're talking about. In this next section, I want you to locate the big events in your life when you learned important lessons about money.
So let me give a setup for this. Maybe maybe in the first 10 years of growing up, everything was great. And then somebody in your family got sick, or somebody lost a job,
Yeah.
and you went from one economic reality to another economic reality. And you can kind of look back and go, man, that was a really, that was a painful moment, or whatever. Explore that moment. So Jeff's saying, hey, grab that moment that something impactful changed. And it doesn't have to be a bad moment. It could have been the moment that,
Yeah.
hey, we did really well as a family financially starting after this thing happened, and that totally changed what we were able to do and what we got to do and how we felt about things. So it's not just negative stuff. We're talking about any significant changes that you can remember.
Yeah, like for example, we got a pool in our backyard when I was
All
a
right.
kid. Yeah,
Awesome.
so that's an example.
Yeah.
Okay, so who was there? Number one, who was there? Who was involved, right? Number two, what happened? Mm-hmm. Just figure out what happened. You have that memory in your head. What happened during that memory? Number three, how did it unfold? Right? There's a trajectory of time. Mm-hmm. And whatever you learned wasn't learned just in a small period of time. It was learned across time, most likely. How did that unfold? Number four, what was the outcome? So whatever, we got a pool, the outcome was we got to go swimming,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, so it could be something small, it could be something big, doesn't matter.
Right.
Right? And number five, what was the lesson there? Now, the outcome and the lesson, they're different things.
Right.
Swimming is not the lesson, although I did learn how to swim.
Good.
But the lesson was, for me, something about there's plenty of money.
Okay.
Right? But it could be something totally different for you, right? Whatever your memory is. Number six, how did you feel about it? What was the feeling you had about it? And it might not just be one. It could be a really complex set of feelings, right? So write out or talk about all the feelings involved in it. And the last one, number seven, how do those lessons impact what is happening in your current argument? All of that history has an impact on what's happening right now. Basically what we're saying in this section is we want you to connect the dots between the there and then, your history, and the here and now, the present. Connect the dots. Sometimes we believe our partner is the person who's hurting us, when in fact that pain occurred long before our partner arrived. That's really important. So I'm going to say this thing. Don't blame your partner for an injury they didn't cause. Instead, I want you to elicit their help. Let me say it again. Don't blame your partner for an injury they didn't cause. Right? They're your partner. Ask for help. The reason this is important is because the things in your history that impact your present sometimes cause collateral damage in your current relationship when it doesn't need to.
Help us get our videos out to more people and deliver more content just like this by hitting the like and subscribe button. If you want to learn more about our work, then hey, go to relational-media.com. You can check out our course on relationships and money. It's called More Than a Budget.
If you want to understand your partner's experience about money, then you're going to have to be really practiced at listening.
I think that also means you're going to have to set some time aside to do that listening.
Sure.
We are all big fans of being efficient. Most of us don't like doing things that are hard. And so, taking this extra step of taking a dive into, kind of our origin stories and the origin stories of our partner is going to mean scheduling some things. It's going to mean making this important.
Yeah, I agree. There's another scenario too, in addition to the sort of practice you're talking about. Like in the middle of an argument, it's also important to hear what the other one is saying. And I don't know if you've ever done this or known anyone who does this, but there's a common error that people make, which is that when their partner is saying something that they want to be listened to about, you're in your mind, as they are saying, maybe 3 or 4 words into the sentence, you're already formulating a response. It's really important that you slow that down. If you're arguing with them in your head or out loud, you're not listening. So I want you to do a few things to help with listening. I want you to start by asking some of these questions.
Okay.
Number one, this is what you would ask your partner, right? What do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just ask. It doesn't have to be these exact questions.
Okay.
Right? These are not magic questions. Right? It's just the sentiment here, the principle here. You're wanting a point of clarification. What do you mean? Help me understand what you're trying to say. How do you feel? That's number two.
And we
How do
talked
you
about
feel?
this, not what do I think, but how do I feel?
Yes. Right. And so if you ask someone how they're feeling, you probably want to hear a feeling, right? So if they don't answer with a feeling, you might encourage them to.
Okay.
Number three, how did you get to your conclusion? You got to this place, how did you get there? If I'm thinking that your conclusion is something I disagree with, then maybe it would be important for me to understand how you got to that spot.
I know at least one person in my world, me,
Yes.
who a lot of times either after an argument or maybe in between rounds of an argument,
Yeah.
I will play the argument out in my head with my spouse. And by the way, I do really good when it's just me in my
I
head.
bet you do.
I win a lot of those. The unfortunate thing is, and I think this is what you're getting to, is a lot of times I'll make leaps in my head in that fake argument that I will bring back into round two.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not helpful?
Not so helpful.
Oh,
No.
That's too bad.
All right, number four, what makes their conclusion important to them? Why is this of significance to them? Right, and number five, what do you need or what do you hope for? So
Okay.
what's the solution here? How can I help? I'm your partner, right?
Right.
Like it's my job to help create connection, even in an argument. So how am I going to get you what you need in order for us to resolve this?
Okay.
So don't stop asking until you and your partner believe that you understand. That's what listening is, right? Empathy is perhaps one of the most important preventative measures you can take in a relationship.
You know, we've talked about this before, that a lot of arguments tend to repeat.
Yes.
And it almost sounds like what you're saying is that it's because we never really finished it. It's because we never really came to a conclusion where I understood what you were mad about and you understood why I was defensive, and we never really unlocked it and solved it.
That's right.
And if we're unwilling to do those steps at the end to finish it, we've pretty much guaranteed we're going to do this again.
That's right. That's right. And repeated arguments, they are no fun. So look, there's a thing about empathy that sometimes people don't understand, which is that if you're empathic, that doesn't mean you have to agree with your partner. You don't. You don't have to agree. You only need to understand. Give as much information as is necessary for your partner to make a good decision. Because it's really important to be consistent about sharing information. That your partner can't make decisions without the information that you have. So share the information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I know that a lot of times we'll tend to, when we have financial discussions at home, we tend to want to flavor or color the information so that it makes our case seem obvious.
Yeah.
And this is another good moment to point out that in financial decisions, we all have our own biases that we bring into these things. And, you know, this outcome seems obvious to me, and it doesn't seem obvious to my partner.
Right.
You know, this is that process of sharing all the information so that you can find that common space.
Yeah, and give them plenty of time to process that information. So don't expect that they have processed it the same way as you just because you gave it to them 3 minutes ago, right? You might have been working on this for a month.
Right.
They need time too. Be patient if they don't understand, because your goal is to increase understanding, right? So you need to be patient.
And I would say also that the more important this decision seems to you, you know, I think we should move. I think I need to change careers. You know, I want our kids to go to a different school than the one they're going to. You know, some of these big cornerstone key decisions, don't expect your spouse to get on board immediately. Give them the time to process and think about and let things happen over time. Don't be in a hurry on big stuff.
Work towards understanding.
Yep.
I want you to avoid contempt. Contempt is perhaps the most corrosive of all the ways a disagreement about money or anything else could go wrong. It's really bad. So if you're rolling your eyes or thinking that your partner is stupid or some other version of stupid, you've officially crossed over into contempt. Try to do everything in your power to avoid contempt. No matter the intensity of the situation, your partner is still your partner, right? You don't want to be thinking about them in an attack mode. You want to treat them like a teammate who's valuable and they're making contributions, even if you disagree.
Yes. Yes.
So while sometimes arguments require a timeout, so you can avoid contempt, right? If you do take time out, it's really, really important that you make sure to come back to that subject. So if you need to leave, do that. That sometimes can break the tension for a moment. You can gather your thoughts. You can reduce the intensity of your feeling, but then you need to come back. It's really valuable to make a specific complaint when you're arguing.
How about 10 or 20 of them?
It's not so valuable to make 10 or 20. One at a time is helpful. Okay. Actually, arguments have a kind of creep to them. They have like a mission creep. You know, I heard that idea.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when someone brings up a complaint, it can spill into 100 different ones.
Right.
It is actually really helpful if you can stick with the one. And if you need to say, hey, I gotta bring up another subject, but let's finish this one first. That's okay.
Yeah.
But basically the idea is that you want to make a complaint, but you don't want to make a criticism. The distinction is that often criticisms are about the other person's character. When your partner attempts to repair your relationship by reaching out to talk, or by apologizing, or by showing empathy, or by listening well, it's really important. Really, really important to be open to that attempt to repair. It typically happens in a very, very small way, especially when it's embedded in an argument. So you have to be willing to notice that little moment where they offered an olive branch.
You know, and it can be something just as simple as them physically moving closer to you in the room. It can be something as simple as bringing you a beverage. It can be some little olive branch that creates that moment.
Yeah, try to do something that de-escalates the intensity of the conflict. And try to notice when your partner is doing that thing as well. You're wanting to create an increase in connection and a decrease in intensity of pain. You know, the best way for us to avoid arguments is to build the relationship that we want. It's labor intensive, but it's less labor intensive than repeating the arguments over and over.
And I want to say again, it's not about learning how to handle arguments. It's about learning how to connect and communicate, and learning these skills together that connect around your common values, so that it becomes a natural thing to communicate without arguing. It becomes a natural thing to move your case as a family forward. It becomes a natural thing to advance your cause together. And so that's what we're working for, is not a big list of things for you guys to go, oh, I can't believe all this work they've put in front of us. It's that work is the doorway to get to a place that is more peaceful and more productive.
Yeah, you want to identify your shared goals, right? That's what we've been talking about. And you want to work towards those together. So, you know, couples who have a shared sense of meaning and purpose, and they work to get to those things, to implement them, and they work to maintain them over time, they feel more connection, right? And those who don't, they have less connection. So we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to think about what you want to do to find those common values and work toward them. So I want to ask a few questions for you to think about when you're working on this with your partner. What do you want? First one. What do you want you to build your relationship into? What do you want it to be? I know that sounds sort of like a strange question. Like, what do you mean? What do you want it to be? I mean, what are you hoping for out of your relationship? You want something shallow and superficial? I doubt it. You want to feel loved, right? You want to feel needed. You want to feel that what you do in contributing to the relationship is meaningful to the other one. But also, how about over time?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something you want as a couple, as your legacy?
Mm-hmm.
As a couple or for your family? It doesn't matter. The field is wide open. You get to choose together. Just answer the question, what do you want to build in your relationship?
And I would say, Jeff, you moment there about legacy. One of the carrots for figuring this out and creating a good relationship process, creating good communication, is if you're planning on having a family and raising kids that can watch you communicate, raising kids that can watch you work together for common goals, raising a family in an environment where there's no or very little contempt. You are not just helping yourself in your own future, you're helping the future of your kids and how they're going to function in their future relationships.
For sure. I mean, there's an idea in psychology that suggests that it's really important to try and break the intergenerational transmission of problems,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's exactly what you're talking about. All right, number 2. What is meaningful for you both? It's a big question. But how do you make meaning?
The question that, in my practice, that I think is maybe the most impactful question I ask any family is, what is it that is more meaningful to you than money? Because we want to know when we're helping families or couples work through financial issues is, how do we use your resources? And money's only one. And Jeff and I have spent a lot of time talking about money problems, but they're really resource problems. We talked about that when we talked about money being a resource or a currency. Right. But this idea is very simple, and that is, we have all these resources available to us. What are we going to do as a couple with these resources that accomplishes something that's bigger than that? And if we've decided that, if we've thought through that, if we've planned through that, then we typically don't get as distracted. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say it's these distractions of a shiny object here or something from our past that's still weighing us down. Those distractions is where a lot of this tension comes from.
A lot of it, yeah. All right, number 3, like we just talked about, what legacies do you want to leave?
Mm-hmm.
What's important for you to leave this world with after you're gone? All right, so protecting time together without kids or other distractions is an important part of preventing arguments. Mm-hmm. So make sure you're spending time together and doing things together that you both enjoy, and stay connected. Build a sense of togetherness. Mm-hmm. And perhaps the most obvious of all is you need to express love. You need to express love. Each person has a different way of feeling loved, and sometimes that changes with the context. Mm-hmm. So moment to moment could be different. But it's really important that you know how your partner feels loved. All right, it's been fun. Mm-hmm. Hope you enjoyed our video. Please hit the like and subscribe button. That'll help us to get these videos to people who would use them. Mm-hmm. And this is the 6th of 6 videos on this subject, so be sure to watch the others. And don't forget to visit our website, which is relational-media.com, and you can find our class there called More Than a Budget, and that'll give you a deep dive into this subject and more.
And of course, thanks to Michelle and to Meredith for putting these videos together for us. And as always, please stay curious.